A tough weekend for Atlanta ends in LA where they get swept. They also dropped a series to Seattle earlier in the week. What's the panic meter? Is it time to panic? My name is Bryce Koon. I'm going to be talking with Logan Whaley about that and more on today's episode of the Chopaholic, brought to you by the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Happy Monday, everybody. My name is Bryce Koon alongside Logan Whaley. And Logan, I guess it's a happy Monday. At least it is for me. I know for Braves fans, it's not the happiest of Mondays. Some are down in the doldrums, per se. But the good news, we're only a fifth of the way through the season. Still plenty, 130-plus baseball games left to play. But we're going to start it right here. If you have not already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, and let us know down in the comments how you feel about your Atlanta Braves this far through the season. Logan, Atlanta gets swept in LA. Game one was competitive. No doubt about it. We're going to talk about it later, but my biggest takeaway is I don't think you can throw Bryce Elder back out there in a meaningful situation right now. And with all due respect, with all due respect to Bryce Elder, I don't think that's a guy that you can count on to go win you a game against a primetime opponent. I think he's probably a league average pitcher, Logan. That's how I kind of feel about it. He's going to be able to pitch well against the lower echelon. The upper echelon, not so much. But they dropped the series. Sunday wasn't too much fun either. But kind of give me your thoughts. I know you got to watch a little bit of it. You went back and looked at some stuff. But just overall, how you're feeling coming off of that series. I know we're going to talk pitching and offense specifically here later in the show. But just your takeaways from the weekend.
I think the game that described the series probably the best was the first game of the Dodgers series. I mean, it was a great game if you're a baseball fan, but such a heart-wrenching way to lose because Shohei Ohtani's single to tie things up in the 10th inning, that was like 83 off the bat, and then Andy Pajez's single was like 60 off the bat, and that I feel like Braves fans have seen that type of loss approximately.
That's your new Braves killer, by the way, Andy Pajez. I'm going to go ahead and just speak that into existence.
My fantasy baseball pickup of the year, right now.
Very nice.
So good for me, but I was watching that and just not happy at all. And I think that game kind of set the tone for the series a little bit, and then obviously Bryce Elder, as you mentioned, just not great. And I think that's going to be a trend for the Braves to try to figure out what to do with the back half of that rotation. And that's just the way things are going to go with Strider out. But no, just disappointing to see the offense where it is. But you kind of get the feeling that for the bulk of these guys, it's not the way it's going to be for the rest of the season. And if it is, then something's wrong. But just based on a lot of these guys and their career numbers, they're way below that. Some of these guys are right now. So, I'm not concerned. The Dodgers are a great team. I mean, they are, one of the favorites in the NL for a reason. And I'm not going to base my judgment on this Braves team from this one series, but I do think that that there are a lot of things that could be pointed out from this series at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, look, overall, the road trip 1-5. They faced a solid Seattle team. They faced obviously a really, really good LA team. We'll get to it later. I mean, you get hit around. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I know you put in our Discord. Make sure to join that down below if you haven't already to join in some conversation. You talked about, like the unavailability of Pierce Johnson. It comes out that he's going to have an IL stint. I think that hurt a lot of the plans they wanted because you were sitting there kind of questioning. Look, we all love Jesse Chavez. This is a podcast. We are Jesse Chavez fans. In that moment, in that spot, especially with the way that Pierce Johnson had pitched, it felt like that was a spot for him to go in and go get a shutdown type of inning, and he's not there. So now that bullpen depth is going to be absolutely tested going forward, Logan. I will tell you this. I don't overreact in May. I don't even overreact Memorial Day. I think I start to really kind of get a sense of what this team is around June 15th. A couple weeks before a couple weeks and a half, I say, month and a half before the deadline. That's when you start to kind of see what this team is. So But overall, coming out of this, I mean, Johnson's there. Jackson Stevens is going to be called up. He was recalled. He got thrown into the fire, Logan. I mean, I don't even blame Jackson Stevens coming into a high leverage situation. It's
Yeah.
shifted a couple guys around. Look, you have to be flexible, but for me with this series, what did I learn? I don't know, Logan. I think I learned that or knew we knew going in that LA was really good. Like no one thought that the Dodgers, like, yes, a lot of Braves fans have this overconfidence about who they are because they've done it for so long now, 6, 7 years. I get that. But man, like LA is still super good. And there's a reason the Vegas betting odds had LA up there as a World Series title favorite. It's a reason every single year. I, we're going to get specifically to pitching and that's later, but look, I don't know if I learned a whole lot. It's just like, hey, Atlanta's scuffling right now, and
Yeah.
you lost to a World Series contender and a team that could challenge for the AL pennant. I think in Seattle, like those are two really good playoff teams. When you're not playing well, they beat you. Outside of that, I don't know if we learned anything else massive about this series.
Yeah, I agree. I think that again, over the past two series, I mean, obviously, you would love to see this team do more than win one game out of
Yeah,
six, but at the same time, I mean, it's two tough places to play on the road. I mean, you look at Seattle, and it's kind of one of the more underrated parks as far as hitting is
yeah,
concerned, because I mean, it is a very pitcher friendly ballpark. I think over the past 2 3 seasons, it's been, I think, the most pitcher friendly ballpark. And so, and again, you could kind of tell that. I mean, Matt Olson had a hit in one of those early games. I think it was against Luis Castillo, where all the metrics in the world could have told you that that was going to be an extra base hit at least, and
yeah,
it's a loud fly out to the wall, and that's just kind of the way that things have been going for the Braves and for Matt Olson in particular. He's hitting the ball hard, just not finding results. And I'm not concerned about this offense because we've seen what it can be and what it has been over the past 2 3 years. So
yeah.
again, not panicking quite yet. And I think that's just going to be the theme of this episode. Is like, all right, everyone, let's take a breath and figure out what this team is over the next month, and especially heading into June, because again, this is the time where you need to figure things out. You'd rather figure things out now than in September and October. So
Agreed.
this is
Agreed.
yeah, this is a good learning experience.
It's a good learning experience, and I think we can cut off this weekend as like, hey, you went 1-5, the bats didn't show up. What did you learn? You learned when you don't play well against really good teams, they're going to beat you. I don't think that was, for some fans that might have been shocking, Logan. To me, it was not. Like, it was not shocking to see a good team take advantage of another team not executing.
Yeah, well, and it's not like the Braves were blown out in any of those games. I mean, there's one game. I mean, obviously the Dodgers game,
True.
game 2 of the series. I mean, that was really the only blowout that was there. I mean, there are a lot of one-run games. I think there were, the past 6 games, I think 3 of them were one-run games. And then I don't think a lot of them went the Braves' way. And as long as you're in the ball game, that's all you can ask for. And eventually you can see the offense starting to pull through. But I really I like what I'm seeing out of the rotation though, so far, at
Hmm.
least the top half of the rotation.
Yeah, Freed's getting there. Freed had a good outing, in my opinion. Quality start, 7 innings. I know he walked 3, he struck out, I believe, 8. But man, he kept you in the ball game. Like looking at this box score, you went into the 6th inning, which is where you start to get into this, this new age of baseball. People like saying, okay, that's when you start to hand it over the bullpen. Freed's still going strong. Logan, it was a 2-0 game. It was 5 hits total by an LA offense that is, just as powerful and can be just as good as what Atlanta can put out there on paper too. And Freed gave you a chance. I think that he's getting back. We call it regressing to the mean. I'll call it aggressing is not a word. Well, it is, but it's not in this sense. He is getting back up to his average of what he is. Shaky first 2 or 3 outings. Now we're starting to see the Max Fried. Atlanta needs that, and I think that's huge. But yeah, look, you're not first in the division. Look, I will say this about not being first in the division, Logan. I don't care about being first in the division in May. Like, I don't care about that. The amount of jokes that Braves fans have made to Mets and Phillies fans about, oh, that's fun. That's fun. Like, okay, well, now the jokes are going to start to come to you. You got to keep that same energy. Like,
Right.
it's the same concept. So I'm not worried about that. Let's go to this panic meter for the offense. Logan, mine's pretty low, honestly. Um, maybe I'm just a way too laid back in my Braves and baseball fandom, but I strongly believe that everyone comes back to what they normally do. Yeah, you're going to have some outlier years where guys that are not necessarily offensive, powerhouses put together a great statistical season, or where guys who are powerhouses offensively, have a bad season. And maybe that's the case. But Logan, I look at this with this offense. They're not playing well right now. They're not hitting on all cylinders. You could really say that between Orlando Arcia and Marcelo Zuna, they have carried this offense through the month of April. And you could even add in when Ozzy Albies hasn't been hurt. He's been a big piece to the puzzle, too. That's 3 guys out of 9. The other 6 guys are arguably all-stars outside of Jared Kelenic. And you've had to play Chadwick Tromp, who's not an offensive-minded guy, more than you would have liked to in the month of April. So you haven't really played Sean Murphy at all. So I think when you look at this lineup, Logan, this is where I sit with it. I'm not too concerned. I think the numbers are going to even out. And this lineup, these guys are too good for this lineup to not, eventually, round into form. And look, as the summer months heat up and as it gets hotter in Atlanta, balls are going to fly out more in different stadiums. That's going to start to happen during the summer months. So, Logan, your panic meter, I'll go on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm like a 3. Yeah, there's in the back of my mind, it's like, okay, maybe this is the year that Atlanta doesn't put together a crazy statistical offensive season. Maybe so, because some things just happen like that. But they're too talented for all 9 guys to not be a top 10 offense in the league at the very worst.
Yeah, 3 was the number I had in my mind as well, to be quite honest with you. And I think the reason why it's not the bare minimum, it's because of the strikeout numbers over the past couple of weeks. The Braves have struck out quite a bit over the past couple of weeks, and even if you want to reduce that to the past, 2 series, Seattle kind of carved up the Braves. I think the Braves had double-digit strikeouts in each of those 3 games, and the numbers did go down against the Dodgers, but that's because the Dodgers are trying to figure things out on the on their end when it comes to the pitching staff. I mean, they're back half of the rotation. It's a bunch of guys that are trying to carve out their name and in the MLB, or they're in their first or second year. I mean, it's very much. You talk about our rotation is trying to figure things out. That's pretty much every team at this point. But talking about the offense, I do think that strikeout numbers are a bit concerning. But look, I'm going to read you the stats from the past 2 weeks. Over the past 2 weeks, the Braves are hitting 213 as a team, 276 on base, 313 slugging. If you think the Braves are going to do that all season long, I don't know if you've been watching Braves baseball over the past 2 years, because this is not a team that does that consistently. This is a lineup that's too talented. And as you mentioned, there are guys that are not playing to their level, and you talked about regressing to the mean. I think that's going to happen for a lot of these guys like Riley and Olsen, and even guys like Sean Murphy when he comes back. I'm excited to see what he does, and excited to see Acuna start to get the power stroke going, because Acuna's been great. He's been good, but he hasn't been the Ronald Acuna of last year, and I think that's been a little disappointing as far as the power, as far as home runs and extra base hits go, but that'll come. I really do believe it will. So yeah, I'm with you. I think 3 is the proper number.
Well, and I want to add this too, and get your thoughts on this. Look, when you're struggling, when you're scuffling offensively, and you face 3 guys that really stood out to me that Atlanta faced this past weekend, Tyler Glasnow, who we know is a swing and miss guy, Bryce Miller is another guy for Seattle that's really good, Luis Castillo, like you mentioned, your guy in your neck of the woods over there, Gavin Stone, who had a really, really solid outing. Like when you face the guys who have elite swing and miss stuff, like those 4 guys that we just talked about, and even James Paxton, who was really solid for LA this weekend. And then you add the fact that I've got this right here, Logan. The 2 staffs that they faced this past week to go 1-5 in that road trip, they ranked as top 5 run preventers in baseball. Like, those are elite pitching staffs through the first month of the season. When you're trying to work out of a scuffle, or when you're trying to work out of a slump, and you see Tyler Glasnow take them out, and hey, he's got the high 90s heater, and he's got that wipeout breaking ball. It's not like, and no disrespect, you're not playing the Marlins. You're not playing the Pirates. You're not playing, for lack of better words right now in baseball, it's kind of crazy, the Astros. Like, you're not playing a team that you feel like you can feast on. Atlanta's going to play Boston, who has been a surprise, for me in the AL East so far this season. But
Yeah.
I think it's almost a welcome break that they get this off day offensively, because now they can say, okay, we just get a little bit of a breather. We get to reset mentally. And now we're going to go play Boston, which, with all due respect to Boston, their pitching staff, I don't know if there's a single guy on the staff. Brian Bayo is very talented outside that is going to pose the type of challenge that LA or Seattle had on a nightly basis. Like, I don't think they have the depth to be able to do that. It could be one guy, but man, what those guys were throwing out there. And then Andres Munoz in the back end of the bullpen for Seattle. Like, Blake Trinan, did you see that wipeout slider that he threw?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just hard. Pretty much what I'm saying. When you're scuffling and you got to face that, it's sometimes you might try a little too hard to get out of that slump.
Yeah, and looking at the matchups coming up, I mean, Cutter Crawford's had a solid season so far for the
Yeah.
Red Sox. I mean, has not allowed too many runs, and then you get Nick Pivetta, who's making his first start back from an injured list stint. I think this could be a good spot for the Braves to get back right, so to speak. I know Cutter Crawford's a tough matchup, but Boston isn't necessarily deep when it comes to their pitching staff and their bullpen, and get back to the friendly confines of Truist Park, right? And which is very much a hitter friendly ballpark. So I think you could see the Braves offense start to pull back together a little bit, and then another road trip to the Mets, and we get Luis Severino and Sean Manaea in 2 of the 3 starts, and then Christian Scott, who's making his second MLB start. Like I think that the guys that are coming up, you could definitely see a path where the Braves start to heat back up offensively and gain some confidence.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of the underlying metrics point to, like, when you look at Matt Olson's underlying metrics, they really start to point towards, like, at some point this is going to turn around. Like, unless you just have the most unluckiest season of all time, which is possible. Like, I don't want people to sit here and say, like, I just think here's the biggest thing. Fans have a perception of this offense and, like, it's got to be scoring 6-7 runs a night, because, Logan, they've done that the past couple of years. When they do struggle, people freak out. Like, stay away from Braves Facebook pages, because when they freak out saying, like, and I'm like, oh, this is a 6-game stretch against 2 playoff caliber teams. It's going to be okay.
The best one I saw. The best one I saw. I don't know exactly which game it was, but it was very recently. Apparently, Matt Olson is the new Chris Davis from one Twitter user with a bunch of numbers in their Twitter username.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that.
Look at Matt Olson's StatCast page. This is for everybody. Just look at his StatCast page when you get a chance, because it is ridiculous that this man is hitting at the Mendoza line. Like, he has been and look at Matt Olson's 5 hardest hit balls this year. All of them have gone for outs. I mean, just talk about unlucky right now. And again, it's easy to overreact when the Braves offense is scuffling and whatnot. But I think that, I mean, it's baseball. You're going to go through slumps. This team's not going to. I mean, not every guy in this lineup is going to hit 300 with 30 homers and have a Marcell Ozuna start to the year. Which, by the way, I mean, Marcell Ozuna MVP was not in my bingo card this year.
Narrowly missed out on Player of the Month too. I believe Mookie Betts got that one, but that he might have deserved it. But hey, I wanted to throw this to you too, because just going back, Olsen, we'll move on to pitching. So right now, and I make sure I'm looking at this correctly, he has an exit velo of 94.3. I believe that says max exit velocity of 113.9. His hard hit percentage rate is 57.3, which, if the season ended today, those would be career highs. Logan, he's smacking, for lack of better words, excuse my French, the piss out of the baseball, and he's just not getting rewarded. And Logan, that's just baseball. It's just baseball.
So it's a PG podcast.
PG for the kids. Yeah, this is for the children.
Ear Muffet kids.
Ear Muffet. Yeah, no, but seriously, like, it's baseball. Like, that's going to happen. It's why I'm not concerned if now we were talking about there were 2 or 3 season-ending injuries, or there were, if I didn't have data points to go off of, Logan, I'd be concerned. I do, and that's why I said it 3. But we don't need to harp on that any longer for the people. But I feel like you and I are in the kind of the same boat. Now, I will say, I think we're in a different boat with the rotation, but I'm more forward thinking in the sense of, like, I'm looking ahead. So let's talk about the panic meter for pitching. You go first. I went first on hitting. You go first on pitching.
I'm kind of, I mean, to me, I kind of separate this out just three different ways. I mean,
All right.
for me, the panic meter on the top half of the rotation, like one, when it comes to Freed, Sale, and Lopez. Okay, maybe throw Morton in there, but I kind of view Morton, as the number 4 at this point. The top 3 guys, I'm a 1. I think that those top 3 are, when the season ends, they're going to be probably one of the top 3, top half of the rotation guys in baseball. I really believe that.
Yeah.
I think Freed is in a contract year, and you can make that narrative whatever you want it to be as far as the motivation that's there. But Sale, I mean, his Sale's nasty, and he's been never not good when he's been healthy. And
Yeah.
that's going to be the concern, and maybe bump it up to 2 because of Sale's health and in his past. I mean, that's probably where I would put it. And then Lopez has been a fantastic surprise for the Braves this year, and I mean the metrics are there for him too. So top half of the rotation, little to no concern. Health is about the only thing. And then the back half of the rotation, I mean, yeah, it's probably about a 5, honestly, because Elder's not going to work out. Elder's not a long-term guy. Of course, you know me. I've never been on the Bryce Elder train. I've never been that guy.
It's just lack of velo, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lack of elite velo. If you put him in Major League Baseball 10, 15 years ago, he's a 10-year guy in stalwart in the rotation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And, but right now it's just if he's missing, he's not great. He's awful.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have, to me, he has good command but not great command. And if you're going to be that type of pitcher, you have to have great command. But anyway, so that back half of the rotation, it is a 5 because you are wanting guys to step up, but at the same time, it's okay that the panic is there for the back half of the rotation, because you could say that for just about anybody in baseball right now. And then the bullpen, with Pierce Johnson's injury, sure, some concerns. I mean, it's about a 2 or 3. Tyler Matzik isn't performing, and you kind of wonder from a lefty standpoint, other than AJ Minter, who's going to show up. Aaron Bummer's had mixed results so far.
Yeah.
And other than Minter and Bummer, who else? I mean, Dylan Lee, sure, but I wouldn't trust Dylan Lee in a high leverage spot against a lefty.
Yeah.
Not at this point. So,
yeah.
And then the guys that are waiting in the wings, like Ray Kerr and maybe Ken Giles makes an appearance. But, that's something, and Anthopoulos worked super hard to get depth in the bullpen over this offseason. And I still think it's a great bullpen. But at the same time, that depth is starting to get tested, and especially it may be time for Matzik to, have a phantom IL stint and get some other guys some opportunities.
Well, and to that point, I mean, there was the conversation: should Matzik even be on the opening day roster?
I didn't think
so. I didn't think so. They opted to go with that. I understand why they opted to go. It just hasn't worked out, and so putting him down at AAA. Look, it's worked for a lot of guys who have. I'm going to use the term established loosely. I go back to when AJ Minter had that stretch, a couple of years ago where they sent him down to AAA. He figured it out, and then he was able to kind of just do that, just a mental reset of sorts. So I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit, because my mind, Logan, it just goes immediately back to the last postseason. And yeah, I know Atlanta didn't hit, but I will say this: I think here's some must for me. AJ Smith-Shawver must get a start before Memorial Day at the Major League level. I think that is a absolute must in terms of starting, and I say his clock, but it's already started. But and when I say clock, I mean like starting his audition for 2024 sooner rather than later. So when you get to June, July, you kind of have some data points of him this season, so then it can decide what you want to do at the deadline. Yeah. I like where Max Fried is. I've already said that. I think that he's going to, we'll call it aggress. He's going to aggress back to what his back of his baseball card says. Like you mentioned, Chris Sale has never been bad when he's healthy. That's the question. I also, too, I think you're seeing a tenacity from Chris Sale. Like, he's got a chip on his shoulder. I think he's, and he's going to be pitching against Boston, which is going to be phenomenal this week. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But I think there's a sense of like a lot of people have written him off, especially when he was up in Boston because he couldn't stay healthy. And this is kind of an opportunity for him to, the Braves gave him some faith when they gave him that extension. Let me go perform for this team. And I think it's paid dividends. Ronaldo Lopez, let's go back to the preseason. The perfect plan for him was to be the 5th starter and be potentially a swing guy or a multi-inning reliever in the postseason. What is Lopez's longevity in the current role he is in? How high or how much can he maintain what he's currently doing? That's one of my biggest questions going forward is, do you feel comfortable rolling into a potential 150, 175 inning season with Ronaldo Lopez? And you get into the dog days where, look, the guys look great in April, but does he fall off a little bit? And you find yourself in a situation, Logan, like we've seen Atlanta. And look, yeah, I know they won a World Series kind of doing this. It's just, why do we have to do this? Like go into the postseason, in my opinion, with at least three legitimate starters. Can you count Lopez in August, September? That's my biggest question. And then after that, like I said, I want to see AJ Smith-Shawver. I think you're going to have to continue to monitor what Hurston Waldrop does down at the Double-A level. Do you push him? Do you continue to let him develop? I think personally he needs more pro ball innings before we can put him on the mound in a big situation. Also, too, a guy that we really haven't mentioned, but I guarantee you if Chip Carey was around, he would say this is like a trade deadline acquisition. A lot of people want to write him off. Ian Anderson. What is his ability to contribute? What's that benchmark as we get into the summer months and we get into the late summer months when he's back available? So, Logan, I just listed those, and then Charlie Morton's going to be Charlie Morton. Like, I think that I agree with you said, he's a back end guy at this point, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I go with, I'll kind of go with the rotation. If we're going 1 through 10, and I'm looking at longevity, not just what we're seeing right now, I'm going to sit at a 5. Like, I'm kind of halfway. I'm not ready to say go trade for somebody now, because if a lot of people don't understand, this isn't MLB The Show and there's no market. You would be dictating the market, so the asking price would be higher. I do think at least one starter needs to be added in July, unless something happens that we don't see coming, whether it's Ronaldo Lopez just continues on this career pace, or an AJ Smith-Shawver comes up and just dazzles. Okay, then I'm more comfortable. So I'm sitting at a 5 with the rotation. I need to see Atlanta go into the postseason. We both believe that they're still going to make the postseason, just for the record. I need to see them go in the postseason with 3 legitimate starting pitching options. What does that look like? Is it 2 guys on the roster and Ronaldo Lopez or AJ Smith-Shawver, Charlie Morton, those 3 guys? Maybe so, but I don't know. So that's where I sit with the rotation, Logan. And I know you're more comfortable. Tell me how you react when I bring in the longevity. I think that's the part for me that is the concerning aspect, and that's why it sits at a 5 right now for me in the rotation.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I think that's a fair concern to have with Lopez. I just think, again, and I mean, this is a guy that was a starter before.
True.
And I get that it didn't go well, but he obviously, to me, has found something whenever he switched to reliever, and now he's back a starter again. I do think it's fair to question the longevity. I think it's fair to question how he'll pitch as the season goes on. But I think the stuff is there. I think the velocity is there. I'm not too concerned right now. I think that
that's fair.
Even if he does regress, I don't think he'll regress to the point where he's not an option in our rotation. That's just where I see it. Now, you mentioned trade options. I mean, you could always go back to the well and go with the White Sox. I mean, Bob Nightingale reported that pretty much every pitcher that they have is going to be on the market, which fair enough. I mean, you're an 8-win team. By the way, the White Sox just took 2 of 3 from the Cardinals, so that was funny.
Also, somebody needs to tell the A's they're not supposed to be good. We're having a Major League 3 movie being made over there in Oakland. Continue, please, though.
Yeah. Oh man, that's an amazing story. I'm always going to root for Oakland for that reason. But no, I think that there's not much of a market, but even then, you could add like a Mike Clevenger from the White Sox. You could add a Fetty from the White Sox, and you could be fine. I think, and I know I get what you're saying about there's not much of a market for starting pitchers, but I think guys like that who are veterans and playing for god awful teams, you can find guys like that. It just hasn't been Anthopoulos' MO, and if he does make a trade in the deadline, you could pretty much say, hey, he has concerns about this rotation, but I'm kind of at a point where I'm not too concerned right now. I mean, yeah, it's a 5 for the back half of the rotation, but you know, you're gonna be throwing guys out there this time of year and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, it's kind of like the preseason of college baseball, like the non-con portion of the season. You got to kind of find what your weekend rotation is going to be. And I want to just kind of add this as we wrap it up here. The back end of the bullpen. Um, Matzik, I talked about that. That's a concern. I think that he could benefit from a phantom IL stint, or just a quick 2-3 week, maybe a 2 week venture down to Gwinnett, just to kind of work on some things. Like you said, Ken Giles is a guy. Ray Kerr is another guy that could be an interesting name to watch. I will say this though, Atlanta has a knack for piecing together a bullpen, and Anthopoulos has shown that that's going to be a massive piece. He understands it. The front office, the ownership groups understand you got to have a good bullpen in October. If you don't, you're in trouble. And so, even though they've struggled, and even though there's some things kind of up in the air, I'm less concerned about the bullpen than I am the rotation. That's just kind of my MO right now with it. So I would say around a 2 or 3 with the bullpen, because I do think I more think that it's a situation that can be easily found where you can find guys, they're going to get comfortable. AJ Minter, I feel like I read the same headline every single year. AJ Minter leading the Braves in appearances. Brian Snicker throws AJ Minter out there 500 times, in the first 2 months, and it's hilarious. Also, too, as we wrap it up, for the fans saying that it does not, the fan who got so mad that AJ Minter gave up the walk-off home run to, I believe it was Mitch Haniger in Seattle, that he gave it up to.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was it Garver? Was it Garver?
Mitch Garver. The two Mitches. I mean, what are we looking at? Mitch Garver. Yeah. It was Mitch Garver to the whole walk-off home run, which is, it sucks. Like, you don't want to see that happen, but go look at Minter's stats. He's going to even out. Like, he's going to be a guy you got to count on. And losing in late April to Seattle should not theoretically, Logan, have an effect on what you do, as it shouldn't. Losing to Seattle, against losing to LA, getting swept by LA in April, early May should not have a bearing effect on what happens in September and October. And I think that's just kind of where we sit.
Yeah.
But Logan, any closing thoughts?
Well, and I think, again, a guy in the bullpen that's underrated and someone we haven't really mentioned, it's Joe Jimenez. I mean, he's been very solid. Very solid this year. And again, like I shared my concerns with Iglesias, and it's kind of funny that during the Dodgers series where Chavez was out there in the 11th, I personally thought that Iglesias should have gone multiple innings. Like, I think Iglesias is the guy that can do that, and I think he should have been out there for middle of that order in the 11th. He only threw 12 pitches, but I digress. But if there's ever a world where Iglesias struggles, I do see someone like Jimenez stepping into a closer role, or maybe Minter could shift over to a closer role. Like, I feel like it's been predicted to do for multiple years.
7 years.
Yeah, we've been waiting 7 years for AJ Minter to be a closer. But no, I think those 3 guys are solid, and I think they'll continue to be solid this year.
I got you. No, that's good. I really liked how Joe Jimenez has pitched. I feel like it's a confidence and aggression that he has. Maybe he didn't feel towards the end of part of last year. He was good, but he's been really, really good for them. And I'll say this too about Aaron Bummer. His stuff's nasty. And everything about him is an analytical nightmare for an offense. So if he, and I'm saying that Logan and I've never stepped in the box against him, but I got 2 guys down here in Baton Rouge that I do a show with who did step in the box against him when they were in AAA, and they said the guy is filthy. Like, when he's locating, he's one of the hardest relievers to hit. I'm going to take their word for it, and not mine and Logan's. I think he's pretty good. I think it'll average out, and you'd like to see some of those numbers come down. But a big reset. Atlanta gets the off day here on Monday. They're going to play Boston, go on the road to New York, and then Chicago 2 times in the span of a week. Going to be playing the Cubs. So good baseball on the horizon.
I just looked up Joe Jimenez's StatCast page. Wow.
It's I looked at it before we started. It's pretty good. It's
210 pitches this year, 0 barrels given up.
And for a guy that throws as hard as he does, sometimes you think guys like that, Logan, are just going to be, I'm going to throw it and you try to barrel it up. No, this guy's just missing barrels with his stuff, and he's filthy. He's filthy.
High chase rate too, low hard hit percentage.
It's good stuff. It's what you like to see. It's what you like to see. Hey, we'd like to see you like this video, subscribe to the channel. He is Logan Whaley. My name is Bryce Koon. And we're going to be continuing doing some coverage here. 2-game series against Boston. We might come to you after that. We'll give some thoughts on that series. But all together, we will continue to roll. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Set those notifications so you know when we go live or new content comes out. But obviously, Atlanta scuffling a little bit. But like as you've seen and heard throughout this episode, whether you're listening to it or watching on YouTube, panic meter, if you add all those numbers together, it's still kind of below the 50% threshold. We're still way too early in the season to really be worrying about any type of implications. It's kind of where we sit. He's Logan Whaley. My name is Bryce Koon, and we'll catch you next time here on the Chopaholic Podcast, brought to you by the Crowded Booth.